Yeah, we love all of the new players that are joining the Florida Gators, but who was on the team last year and is going to be an impact player, a breakout player this year? I got him for you. Don't worry about that on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. Happy Friday. Happy Saturday. It's weird this week. Sorry. I'm Brandon Olson. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, and NFL 33. And we're talking about the breakout players on the Florida Gators this year. And of course, this is a Saturday episode because Wednesday I was having internet issues, couldn't get an episode up. So we're doing it, baby. I'm still giving it to you. Here we go. We're talking about these breakout players. And before I even talk about this is not in any particular order. I'm just talking about three players that I think are going to be, again, breakout players this year. I'm also not including guys who were injured for the huge majority of 2022. So that means no Arliss Boardingham. That means no Jack Miller III. None of that. I'm not including players who were not on the roster in 2022. So I'm not considering Graham Mertz. I'm not considering someone like Micah Mazuka, just for example. And I'm not including players who were redshirted last season without injuries like Max Brown or a Hayden Hansen type. That's not going to happen. But I am talking about guys who were on the team last year. And I'm starting off with someone that I think is going to be a freak this year, Chris McClellan, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma. Only college has been with Florida. And look, I wanted to avoid people who didn't play too much, and it's just like, oh, they're going to be more productive and breakout players because they're seeing significantly more snaps. That's what I'm trying to avoid. I understand Chris McClellan will play significantly more snaps in 2023 than he played in 2022, should he remain healthy. But I also think that he's going to perform better from an efficiency standpoint. I think that he's going to be better not just because he's playing more snaps, but I think he's going to do more with those snaps, more pressures per snap, more a higher win rate, maybe even. I think he's going to be significantly improved. With this new playing time, he is going to, I think, thrive genuinely. And I know that my main selling point for him has been his positional versatility. I have spoken frequently about Desmond Watson. Start Desmond Watson at the nose. Start Cam Jackson at the 3 tech. And have Chris McClellan be the primary rotational piece for each of those guys. And I still think that's true. Whether or not Chris McClellan starts, that doesn't matter to me. I just need him to play a lot of snaps. So if that means then I've said this before, I know, but take Des Watson off the field, put Chris McClellan in, and then when Desmond Watson's ready to come back in the field, you move Chris McClellan to the 3 tech, you take Cam Jackson off the field, and you bring Desmond Watson onto the field. And I stand by that. I still think that's a fantastic strategy given the personnel that you have on the defensive line, which maybe we'll break down that logic at another point. But with Chris McClellan, I still think that that's the best way to use him because he is one of the few defensive linemen that I am genuinely, truly comfortable with playing and even starting at both the nose tackle, which is thought of as your big, burly, space-eating nose tackle. That's your Desmond Watson. That's your Tadara Slayton. That's your Snacks Harrison. Those kinds of guys. Your Casey Hampton. Your Haloti Nadas. Them. And Chris McClellan can play that role and then also step in as the 3 technique, which is lined up. That's based on where you're lined up in the formation, but it's typically thought of as your pass rushing defensive tackle, your pass rushing interior defensive lineman. And for Florida last season, that was listed as defensive end because, of course, we all had to go through the thing of Javon Dexter playing defensive end. And then he had literally the same exact role and responsibilities that he had when he was listed as a defensive tackle. He's just playing as defensive end. Chris McClellan can do that. He can be that pass rushing type, and he can be that nose tackle. But you don't have to be like, oh, I'm playing the nose, I can't rush the passer. No, you can do that. So Chris McClellan being able to play both of those roles, I think it gives you a lot of versatility with what you can do up front personnel-wise. Like I've said, you could put Chris McClellan at the nose, put Justice Boone or Tyreek Sapp at the 3-tech, and then you could have both Princely Umar-Mellon and Antoine Powell-Ryland on the edges, and you have a legitimate pass-rushing NASCAR-style duo that you could do with Chris McClellan. But even on top of that, it's not just the positional versatility that I think makes Chris McClellan a breakout candidate. I think it's his play versatility. We saw Chris McClellan in 2022, and I'm gonna be completely honest here. He didn't do all of these things wonderfully, but we saw him in 2022 try at least to break out a rip, a swim, a bull rush, just a pass rush repertoire like that. And yeah, there's more that you can do as a pass rusher, and you can be more impressive in that way. But it is truly impressive to watch a guy go from high school senior to college true freshman in the SEC and break out multiple moves to shed blocks. It's impressive. And that's one of the overlooked aspects of his game. But that little nuance that you bring, that's fantastic. And I truly do credit defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator Sean Spencer, Coach Chaos, for doing that, because that's what he likes to do. He likes to give you a full Swiss Army knife of pass rush moves. And that's awesome to see. Like that's something where I think it's often overlooked because so many defensive linemen in college can just win with athleticism. But Chris McClellan has a legitimate skill set to, maybe not this year, but next year or the year after, be a legitimate all SEC, all American caliber interior defensive lineman. Because yes, like I said, he wasn't great at all of those moves, but the willingness to just pull them out and use them in a game, and just having that confidence as a pass rusher, again, the willingness to do it and getting that experience doing it in actual game time situation, fantastic. Like Chris McClellan is going to continue to develop. Having a pass rush repertoire like that as a true freshman on the defensive line, that's a major win there. And yeah, like I said, they didn't work out most of the time, but we know, Florida Gators fans, we know how players can develop along that defensive line and just out of nowhere snap and become these good pass rushers. You could see Chris McClellan do that. And that's what I want to see. I don't know if we'll see him really reach that this year, but I think we'll see him take a significant step towards being truly great in 2023. We're going to flip to the offensive side of the ball. But first, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. March Madness well underway. NBA season wrapping up. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook, because guess what? The MLB is like, a week away from opening day? Like this is prime money-making season, baby. It truly is. And if you're a new customer, you can sign up and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. And I'm recording this right before tip-off of Miami and Houston. And I'm letting you know, I took an emotional hedge. I bet Miami to win, because if Miami wins, I'm mad Miami won, but I'm happy I made money. If Miami loses, I'm happy that Miami lost, but I'm mad that I lost money there. So that's just how it is. But new customers, no sweat, first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, I said we're going to the offensive side of the ball. We're going the pass catcher here. We're going with Caleb Payday Douglas. And I am fully aware that there's a certain section of Gators fans that don't like him for whatever reason. I understand that they're like, oh, he drops so many passes. I just want to make this one abundantly clear. He had 2 drops last season. Okay? 2 drops. And I will also say that I've been a big fan of his. I understand that. Yeah, that seems to be something where I don't know what it is. I say, oh, I like this player. And I feel like a lot of Gators fans are just like, well, now we hate him. And that's how it goes. But Caleb Payday Douglas is someone that I truly do believe can be a very good wide receiver in general, not just X receiver. Yeah, he can step in and I truly believe replace Justin Shorter immediately. But Caleb Douglas, I'm a big fan of his. I think that one of the things he does very well is he does a great job of working vertically and attacking the ball while it's in the air. And that's what Florida, I would like to see that from Florida more. Have somebody that is going to work vertically. When you want to press him, guess what? I'm bigger than you. I know how to beat your press, and I know how to get by you. Caleb Douglas is listed at 6'3", 191. That's fantastic for me. Like you can line up like that as an X receiver and run vertically and stretch the field that way. Hell yeah. Give me that 10 times out of 10. Whether you line him up at the X, the Y, put him in the backfield. I don't care. Just he's the type of player where you have to have faith in throwing the football to somebody, because there are going to be times where it's like, okay, we have to throw the ball on this play, but maybe it's 4th down. We have to throw the ball on this play. We have to get the ball to somebody. Everybody's covered. I'm going to go to the guy that I trust to come down with that ball. And that's going to be Caleb Douglas more often than not. We saw it with Justin Shorter, Anthony Richardson, 4th and short. How many times did we see Florida last year on 4th and short or 4th and medium, and they went long deep down the field to Justin Shorter? They did that because you have faith in a guy like that to go up and get the ball. Caleb Douglas is not as good as Justin Shorter right now, but he has the potential to be better. He truly has the potential to be better. And I will say that you guys know I'm not in Gainesville, so I'm not at spring practice all the time. I have to see the film and I have to get the notes like a lot of other people. But from what I've seen, he looks like he moves way smoother in spring 2023 than he was moving in fall 2022. I don't know if it's just getting more comfortable. I don't know. I know he had a slight weight change. Maybe it was that he trimmed some fat, gained some muscle. I don't know what it is, but he looks smoother to me. Maybe, and this is from the start of spring, so I'm not like Billy Gonzalez showing up and making massive changes already. But I do think that maybe it's just Caleb Douglas getting a little more nuanced as a route runner. I don't know. Maybe he was working with somebody in the offseason. If I'm not mistaken, I think he did some work with Footwork King, who also works with DJ Lagway and a ton of other receivers, and specifically Florida Gators receivers in the past. He's worked with CeeDee Lamb. So if I'm not mistaken, Caleb Douglas does work with Footwork King, and maybe that's why he looks so much more fluid as a route runner, just based on the spring ball. And I know routes on air. There's no DB there. I don't care. I don't care if it's routes on air, because guess what? Whether there's someone on you or not, you're still running routes the way you run routes. So I think Caleb Douglas has improved as a route runner so far. I think that his contested catch ability and his ability to just get vertical, like he can stack up on a corner and then boom and actually get going. And that's something that's impressive from him that we saw it. I know it was the Eastern Washington game, and a lot of Gators fans want to go, but it was Eastern Washington. Cooper Kupp's from Eastern Washington. Okay, I know he's the outlier, but there's good players that go to Eastern Washington. And what Caleb Douglas did in that game was just get vertical and make a play when the ball went in the air. That's what I'm saying he's good at. I'm not saying he's Antonio Brown or Kadarius Toney as a route runner, but I am saying that Caleb Douglas is good at getting vertical and making a play on the ball in the air. He looks improved as a route runner. I will say he is an okay blocker at the receiver position. I'll say okay. Okay, I'll say okay as a blocker. And I think he's the type of receiver where, as a quarterback, you go, okay, you're my new best friend. I'm not going to throw the ball to you 80 times this season because we have Ricky Pearsall. We have Xavier Henderson. So I'm not going to throw the ball to you 80 times. However, I am going to throw the ball to you when stuff hits the fan. When I say on that 4th and long, we're going to throw deep, I'm going to throw it to Caleb Douglas. I fully support that. That's something that I like seeing and that I would love to see from Caleb Douglas and from Graham Mertz or Jack Miller or Max Brown. I don't care. Whoever's throwing the football. That's something I'd love to see. And I also understand I am very much in the minority when I say I liked the fourth down, let's go long strategy. That's something that I fully support. I understand a lot of people hate it just in general, not just Gators fans. A lot of people hate it. I love it because defenses are so focused on don't let them throw it short and get the first down. Don't let them run to the first down marker and then cut in or cut out and get a quick first down there. No, they're focused on that. So I'm like, okay, fake in, go deep, and just try to make a play there. So I like it, and I think Caleb Douglas would be a fantastic receiver for that. I do think that with this offense, he's actually a pretty solid fit that we're going to see kind of just develop over time. And I can't wait to see it. But there is one more player to talk about. And we're flipping to the defensive side of the ball. But first, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Built Bar. Spring has sprung earlier this week. Spring ball only has a couple of weeks left. Summer's coming up. Okay, I haven't done the Cat De Luna song in a while, but I might one of these days. I might bust it out one of these days. But if you're trying to get fit like I am, and if you have a hardcore sweet tooth like I do, Built Bar needs to be included in your plan. Most bars have just 130 calories, just 4 net carbs, along with 17 grams of protein, and they're coated in 100% chocolate. You can get yourself a Built Puff if you really do have a sweet tooth like I do. It's chocolate-coated protein marshmallow. Boom, baby. They're amazing. I'm telling you. And now you can get them in person, Sam's Club, Walmart, or you can still go online to built or builtbar.com and get yourself that Built Bar. To wrap up today's show, we are flipping back to the defensive side of the ball, and we're flipping to Shamar James. And I understand that this might be one where you hear me say Shamar James, and it's like, he was great last year. How is he a breakout player? Well, I'll tell you how he's going to be a breakout player, or how he could be a breakout player. And no, it's not just, well, he's going to get more playing time. Because like I said, that's not how I'm approaching this. Yes, all three of these guys are probably going to get more playing time. But again, I think they're going to be more productive on a per snap basis, as opposed to just they're getting more playing time. No duh, they're finding success. Because what I'm talking about here is like Shamar James, for example. Shamar James, who, by the way, was a beast as a blitzer last year. And I don't know if you know this, but Florida, they have a new defensive coordinator. Patrick Toney went to the NFL. Austin Armstrong is the new defensive coordinator. And Austin Armstrong blitzed 40% of the time last year with Southern Miss as the youngest defensive coordinator in the FBS. And he's going to blitz a lot with Florida. That was the 8th most, by the way, in Division I football, or in the FBS, the 8th highest blitz frequency. Linebackers did it a ton. I believe 18% was the lowest for a starting linebacker. Shamar James is going to be a freak at that. Like Shamar James in 2022 rushed the passer just 27 times. He had 5 pressures and 2 sacks on those 27 pass rush reps. That is very impressive. Like that is incredible. Where for guys on this team that blitzed more than 10 times, that's only worse than Ventura Miller in terms of that pass rush productivity rating, according to Pro Football Focus. So pass rush ability, and guess what? He's going to be better because it's going to be less about actually lining up on the edge and blitzing, less about operating strictly out of creepers as a pass rusher. No, this is going to be, you're going to blitz the hell out of the offense, and we're going to show you blitzing and you're going to blitz. We're going to not show you blitzing and you're going to blitz, and you're going to go in and find success. And guess what? We're going to send 6 people at a 5-man offensive line, and if they don't want to keep a tight end or a running back into block, one of the players is going to be a free runner. Shamar James's first step is insane. So yeah, he's going to get to shoot right into the gap and just light up a quarterback at will. And I can't wait to see that. Like, he is going to be a pass rushing freak. And I've talked about that before. I've talked quite a bit about Shamar James being a great fit for Austin Armstrong as the new defensive coordinator, and Shamar James, should he be the starter at will, is going to be very productive. I've spoken about that before, okay? What I do want to talk about that I don't think I've spoken about before with Shamar James specifically is his coverage ability and how it's going to translate to Austin Armstrong. Because we've talked about cover 3. We talked about it pretty in depth last week. The gist of it, 3 deep safeties or 3 deep cover men, 4 underneath cover men. Usually you got a safety, you got a linebacker or a safety, and a slot, as we often see in modern football. And then 2 linebackers get to work underneath over the middle of the field. Last year, there was a lot of quarters, which I'm not going to go into all of the nuances of cover 4 or quarter, half, or any of that stuff. But I will say it involves 4 deep defenders, or four defenders that might have deep responsibility, and just 3 that are working underneath. And that often requires a linebacker to pretty much sprint to the flat. That's what you had to see a lot of with quarters, which Shamar James is pretty good at that. He is, because like I said, he's got an insanely quick first step. So if he can shoot to the flat, that's great. The flat, the sideline, whatever you want to call it. He's had like the short sideline responsibility there. But now it's less, I need to sprint to the side before I can really operate in coverage and before I can really use my eyes in coverage. No, this is Shamar James gets to snap and drop back into coverage and keep his eyes in the backfield. And he gets to operate that way more. And like I've mentioned and I've alluded to a little bit, he's probably going to have more freedom as far as, hey, Shamar, if that running back is in pass protection, you're now blitzing. If that tight end is in pass protection, you're now blitzing. You're going to see that freedom that Austin Armstrong, I truly believe, is going to give to players like Shamar James and Derek Wingo and Taraji Mitchell and Manny Nunnery and Deuce Spurlock and Scooby Williams. You're going to get to see that from Shamar, and I think that he's going to thrive in a role like that, just mainly because that quick first step, that explosiveness is ridiculous from him. So he is going to be able to just shoot into the backfield and light up, whether it's a quarterback or running back. He's feasting. So Shamar James, I mean, honestly, he's the 3rd on this list, but he's probably the most likely breakout candidate that we spoke about today. But again, I truly believe all 3 of these guys are in for big seasons, especially when you consider how they perform on a per snap basis compared to 2022. But we'll see. I've been right before about these things. I'm just saying. I've been wrong too, but I've been right before. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free. We have this in the podcast. We'll be back Monday to talk more Florida Gators. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball. Those dudes are dogs. Isaac Shade, Andy Patton. They're amazing at what they do. They make me smarter every single time that I listen to their show. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, and NFL 33. And I will see you all Monday.